One of us.
Great showing. You guys suck and you cheated.
Oh, we're recording? I didn't know we were recording.
It is the biggest transfer or free agent signing in the history of the United States in any sport. What is up, everybody? Welcome back for another episode of Ride the Pine, presented by the Benchwarmers Podcast Network. I'm Sean Sproat. Joining me, of course, Kenny Hutton, Adam Freeman. Cameron May was here, but he had technical difficulties and had to drop off, so he might be joining us later in the episode. I don't know. Quick update before we really kind of dive into anything and go to Around the Horn. If you're listening on your preferred podcast network on Apple, Spotify, iHeart Radio, Amazon, whatever, we are now on YouTube. So please like, subscribe, hit the bell, definitely give it a watch, and tell your friends. Okay, let's go ahead and dive into it, guys. Let's go around the horn. Adam, what you got for us first?
So, as everybody in the sports world knows, that this time of year sucks and there's nothing interesting to talk about. So we got the MLB All-Star game going on. As we sit right now, the NL just took a 3-2 lead in the top of the eighth, which would be their first win in probably 10 years. 2012 looks like it was their first win. They won in 12, 11, 10, and then they had not won since 2002. So maybe we get on the right side of a win. But usually the AL dominates these things.
I don't know where I heard that from before. That's odd.
Yeah, it's almost like we just said that a minute ago.
It's almost like this is our second attempt at recording. Is that so? Do you think that's because of the DH, and now that the DH is universal, we might actually see competitive, well, quote unquote, competitive games, or the NL actually competing like they are tonight?
I think that the bottom end of the AL is better than the bottom end of the NL, like drastically better. The Reds, the Pirates, and I know the Reds are in first place. Notoriously, the Reds, the Pirates.
That's just muscle memory to say the Reds at the bottom.
I know, but like those teams are way worse than most AL teams. So I think that's what ends up doing is the talent does generally go to the AL. There's a chance that with the DH it could happen, but the one thing that I kind of want to hit on. Or get hit in the face on, depending on how you watch the Home Run Derby, is the All-Star Game festivities. NHL, in my opinion, has one of the best All-Star games, at least All-Star festivities, with the skills competition, with the 3-on-3 All-Star game, how they kind of incorporate all the divisions and they kind of all play against each other. The Pro Bowl is hot garbage. Except, we'll say this, ESPN is starting to bring back the skills competition, which was fantastic. The MLB All-Star Game, to me, in my opinion, is absolute trash. I hate watching the All-Star Game, even though I like to just see the players, things like that. But the Home Run Derby is really where it's at. It doesn't beat the skills competition, but what are your guys' thoughts on the Home Run Derby?
Number one, baby. Number one across the board of any sport. And our failed recording, I mentioned that the MLS stuff is a little extra, or is a little close to being number one, probably number two, just for goalie wars, but Home Run Derby is by far the best. I can tell you what the worst is anything with the Pro Bowl with NFL. With the NFL, is by far the worst. I think they're doing flag football now, by the way.
Yeah.
Which it's terrible.
Yeah, but last year they had the throwing skills competition. Their presentation is horrible because of who they're trying to market towards. They're really trying to drive the younger generation, the hip, cool thing, and how they produce all of it instead of just showing the guys do their skill.
Right.
I will say the MLB had a very interesting presentation last night. If you watch on ESPN, you got the regular broadcast, which was hot garbage because they were going so fast they barely showed a ball leaving the park. But on ESPN2, it was StatCast. So they had one angle from behind home plate, and then they had the picture of the stadium on the other side to show the trajectories. That was awesome. As a stat nerd, numbers guy, that was one of the cooler things I've seen that they actually switched to. And that should be their number one broadcast.
Yeah, that's cool.
But the NFL skills competition wasn't bad. I mean, they did a throwing competition. They did kicking. They even did a relay race. So that wasn't terrible. But I think the Home Run Derby it's one of those things that'll always be there. And I got to go when it was in St. Louis, which was pretty cool to see it happen live. But Home Run Derby is where it's at.
I can't remember the last time I actually even watched anything to do with the Pro Bowl. But Kenny, any thoughts that you have? Anybody nearby that has any thoughts that wants to chime in?
Talking about what I'm setting my camera on, yeah. No, I think most of the All-Star games are boring. I mean, the NBA and the NFL don't even try. The skills competition in the NHL is the only thing that intrigues me. I don't even really watch the tournament, whatever you want to call that, the tournament.
Right.
And this is the first time I've turned on the All-Star game. Like, I literally have it up, and I can watch it right now, and that's about it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really interest me. The home run derby is cool, but, for me, it's not appointment TV, right? Like, I don't even think we turned it on yesterday. Now, we were pretty busy, but usually if there's, a City game on or a Blues game I want to watch, I make the effort to turn it on. And it just, no. But I am intrigued. What is goalie wars?
So goalie wars is the thing that the MLS used to do that they're kind of slowly bringing back. They had it last year, but they didn't televise it. They only put it up like afterwards on YouTube, basically. And I don't know if they're going to televise it this year or not. But basically what it is you have you scoot the goals in to like 18 yards apart from each other. One goalie mans each goal, and they throw or kick the ball and try and score on each other. And it just goes back and forth for like a minute and a half to 2 minutes. Whoever has the most points moves on to the next round. It's awesome. It sounds like so simplistic in theory, but it is really great.
I will say this. If MLB needs to go back to the original home run derby. You get 10 outs, and that's it. If it's not a home run, it's an out. I like how they have it. I like the amount of home runs that are hit, but the old school, let's go back to the basics of the home run derby would be so much better, at least for a couple rounds, if anything. These guys last night, I mean, you had – go ahead, Kenny.
I want to see the original home run derby. Like Mickey Mantle against, I forget who it was. I watched on ESPN Classic.
Oh, those were fantastic.
And they did 3 outs, and they play a whole 9-inning game.
Yeah,
let's do that.
Those were so cool to see. Whether or not it was the real version of it or not, I still question. I don't know. Just my skepticism lies behind that. But last night, Julio Rodriguez hit 41 home runs in the first round because he had to beat the super strong guy Pete Alonso. That he works out. He's a big guy. But
you made that joke last week.
I'm gonna make it all the time because he's a say it. But it's just not as fun because the guys get gassed. I mean, the final round was somewhat exciting. You had Mookie Betts that everybody knew that he was not going to put up a number. Let's go back to the original. I think you'd get a lot more attention that way, and a lot more competition with it as well.
So this wasn't on our rundown or anything, but then if the home run derby is the best, what's the worst? I kind of mentioned that anything with the Pro Bowl sucks, but if you had to say what's the worst, either All-Star game or All-Star event, what is it?
They did one last year for the NHL. I think they did a version of it this year, where these guys, it was 2 years ago in Vegas, and they had to get the higher card. These guys are so good, they hit these targets just bing, bang, bong, and it was just this is stupid. This is so stupid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wasn't it the one that was here that they had the Kachuk shooting from the stands, and he was still able to hit the target? I mean, from 100 yards away, basically.
Well, that was cool. They were standing where I am from the wall in my living room. You got to hit the king of spades, and this guy just kind of looks at. I mean, they clearly were not having fun, and it was just it didn't view well on TV.
Yeah. Adam?
I hate to say the NBA because I am a sucker for the slam dunk competition. I mean, it's got to be the Pro Bowl. Until they figure out something with presentation and actually do a legit skills competition instead of making it just a game and try to have as much fun with it as possible, it's not going to be any good. And really, truly, the Pro Bowl in general is horrible. So I would have to go with the NFL's version of it.
Yeah, I think so too. It's definitely by far the worst. I was kind of hoping one of you guys would say the NBA and like the slam dunk contest, because it used to be incredible. I mean, and maybe that's just nostalgia, kind of warping my perception of it. But I feel like in the '90s, like late '90s, it was amazing. And now it's like it all went downhill once Dwight Howard won by putting a Superman cape on and just dunked like normal.
It's because nobody big does it anymore. Like, it's not a big name event. A lot of the smaller guys or rookies are doing it. I mean, LeBron, I don't think has been in one slam dunk competition. If he was, it was his first year. The 3-point contest, I mean, I guess you get occasionally with like Steph Curry in it. The relay race is kind of cool, but the slam dunk competition has gone way down. If we were just going by like straight game, I would say the slam dunk competition is one of the worst, because that is truly just a sideshow. But I think overall it's the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, agreed. All right, let's go ahead and move on then. We're still going around the horn, but Adam, you had a note about you wanted to talk some Cardinal baseball.
Yeah, really, it's our one local thing this week. All-Star break, obviously. Cardinals are, I believe, 11.5 games back, 12 games below 500, something right around there. Came out, I guess, that over the summer, and Kenny, correct me if I'm wrong, we were talking about this earlier today, the Bill DeWitt said that he didn't want to sign Luis Robert because he didn't want to clog up the MLB pipeline. He didn't want to take a roster spot. How much bullshit is that?
It's all the bullshit. I believe I said as we were standing in the parking lot, because we were talking about the Senate confirmation, or not the confirmation, the hearing with the PGA
PIF.
and the PIF.
But we're not talking golf, because Kenny doesn't like talking golf.
Hold on, I'm getting the statement out, so shut up. I'm sick of you guys doing that. That I said, they don't want the Saudis like buying actual sports franchises, and that's when I said, wait a minute, I want the Saudis to buy the Cardinals, because maybe they would actually spend a little bit more money then. But like, just the audacity of the Cardinals front office to say some of the things they've said recently. A clip went around on Twitter of Mozeliak talking about how did he word it? He goes like, working for this organization is a blessing and a curse, and blah 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 blah. First of all, go fuck yourself. Secondly, you haven't won a playoff series in a decade.
Yep.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Your excuses are tiresome. You walk around this town like a pompous asshole, and I've seen it. I've seen him out in public. He's the biggest douchebag on the planet. He thinks he knows more than anybody else. And I'm tired of it. You are not creating a winner. You are creating a loser. And honestly, Cardinal fans need to stop going to the games. Point blank. We've had this discussion about, can you go to a Cardinal game for under $100? And Adam sent out they're doing a promo right now, $4.44 or whatever it is. Yeah. Don't even buy them. Don't buy them. Don't go. Because we do nothing. We get nothing bitching on Twitter, Threads, Facebook, calling into ESPN 101 if we still go. It's ridiculous.
But does it matter? I mean, that's like, I get your point that we haven't won a playoff game in a decade. But what about the Diamondbacks? I mean, what about the other franchises? I mean, what about like...
They're not the St. Louis Cardinals. They don't have the most...
I agree.
They don't have the most pennants in the NL.
What about a Patriots fan? Well, go to a different sport. What about Patriots? Patriot is somebody that was born in, let's say, 1990, and they grow up watching sports. The Patriots win their first Super Bowl in 2000, and they win 6, right? And now they're not winning? Like, is it the same thing? Should they be complaining that their franchise should always be winning a playoff game? Should always be winning a Super Bowl?
It's not. It's not the same because of longevity. Because the last time the Cardinals had this worse of a record, it was 1918. It's been over 100 years since they've been this bad. And so there is an expectation through multiple generations of winning and competing, and the fact that they are not winning and they're not competing and they're so nonchalant about it, that's the problem.
That is the issue that I have, is their attitude behind it. And it'll be interesting because I think it's coming out after the All-Star game, or whatever. Locally, they're putting out an interview with Fox 2 and Mo. It'll be really interesting to see what he says in that tomorrow, because I'm not listening to it today. And just hearing the responses, because it would be nice to hear ownership. Like, I don't care about the Arozarena trade. I don't care about the Garcia trade. I don't care about Gallen. I'm naming All-Stars because that's probably the most common one. But, like, at least own up to the signing. Sign it like Mats. What the hell was the other? Mike Leake. Dexter Fowler. I would even start putting Contreras into this. Like, the trades are one thing, because trades, you're still getting assets back. I will still stand by that Arozarena trade at the time was probably the right trade. You can never pan out 2 years down the road that it turns out better. But a signing like Dexter Fowler that you have to go out and sign, which I think Dexter Fowler is a weird one because of Oscar Tavares. And Kenny, you can shake your head all you want, but
Kenny's losing his damn mind.
That is the right trade.
That kid sucks.
The kid's 22.
I don't care.
A pitcher doesn't get hot until he's 27. Don't tell me he sucks.
You guys talked about like that he was the greatest left-handed pitcher ever. He sucks. He can't do it.
He's 22.
Let me rephrase this. He can't do it because his expectations have been set too high, because this team talked about he is the greatest pitcher ever.
No,
he's a number 3
he can't do it because the
right
franchise mishandled him and every other pitcher. Zach Thompson, another fantastic example.
You literally traded MLB talent for a prospect. Then don't tell me they can't handle it.
But
if you can't handle it, don't make that trade.
No, he's 22. He's not 26. You're not trading for Jack Flaherty.
Maybe he shouldn't be playing right now at the top level. Maybe he shouldn't be playing. Maybe he shouldn't see anything past AAA until he's 25.
If you look at Zach Thompson as a great example, Zach Thompson is the exact same person as Liberatore, probably not quite as high as a prospect, but pretty damn close. And you have a guy that comes up that they want to make him a starter. Cool, let's make him a starter. He comes and he starts a couple games. Okay, guess what? We're going to put you in the bullpen because that's where we need you. Put you in the bullpen for a couple games. Great. This isn't going well. We're not getting you innings. We're going to send you back down to the minors, and you're going to be a bullpen pitcher. But guess what? Now we need you to be a starter, so we're going to stretch you out. Oh, just kidding. We're going to put you in the bullpen again. And then, hey, guess what? When we come back up, we're going to make you a starter. No, the problem isn't the prospects. The problem isn't them developing, because a pitcher does not develop as fast as a fielding prospect or a hitting prospect. It's just, that's proven, because it takes a lot longer to be able, one, to throw a ball past a guy. But you cannot have these kids that come up and they change their roles every time. That is the problem that they're having. That is why Randy Flores did not draft a pitcher at 21, and they draft a kid that can fucking rake. Like, the kid can hit 500-foot moonshots right now, and that is fine, because that's currency. A prospect that is 18, 19, 20 years old is going to be currency for you for the next 5 years.
Right.
Arozarena, nobody knew.
You just negated everything you just said, because the fact is, you talked about prospects or currency and you traded for one. You had MLB talent. MLB talent.
Arozarena? He was your number 10 prospect, and you went out and got a number 2 prospect.
Listen, hindsight is everything in this situation. Like, obviously we're looking at it, we're seeing multiple All-Stars that were in our system that are no longer in a system that we traded away for guys who are currently contributing to the worst Cardinal season in 103 years. I 100%, I completely get that. It's all hindsight, though. It really is. We can bark all day, but because it's hindsight, Mo should not have a job anymore. We now know the outcome of those moves. We now know how bad it panned out. He should not have a job anymore, and that's the bottom line, really.
It should be Randy Flores. Randy Flores next year should be our GM. I don't care about Gersh. I don't care about Mo. It needs to be Randy Flores. If you let that man walk out of this franchise, this year will happen for the next 5 years. Guarantee it.
I'm not prepared for that. I don't think I can take that, and I definitely know Kenny can't take that, because I can see the frustration.
This is what I will say, and I will make this my final point because I'm done talking about the fucking St. Louis Cardinals. Is that they should be shaking in their boots that City is doing so well. They should also be very, very nervous that the NHL is talking about moving their season back, basically playing the Stanley Cup in August to compete with the MLB.
Yeah, right. I agree. I agree with that 100%.
I mean, it's definitely something they should think about, but I don't know how much that hurts the Cardinals. I really don't. Their market is too widespread for it to make a massive. It'll make an impact. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's too widespread to make a massive impact to this franchise. To other teams, the Royals, or I mean, hell, even the Braves that have a pretty decent widespread. If you had that competition in Atlanta, I would agree with it, but not. I don't think that hurts the Cardinals as much, unfortunately.
All right, let's go ahead and move on. We have our next topic is the footy free for all. We're going to kind of just give a quick breakdown of the men's national team and their current form in the Gold Cup. I don't know if you guys noticed, they just played in our notes, Adam put the U.S. men's national team sneaks past U.S.'s hat. So America's hat. They won on PKs. I believe it was 2-2 going into PKs. Matt Turner stood on his head, man. He made 2 saves right off the bat, and the United States wins to go to the semifinals against Panama. There's not much really to write home about this game. There really isn't. I felt like the U.S. didn't actually look that good. I thought Canada was a better team for a majority of the game, actually. And I don't know if you guys saw that little halftime scruffle between the two teams in the tunnel. That felt to me like Canada not basically saying they're not going to be pushed around. They're not going to be bullied. USA gets the win in the end. Are they the better team in CONCACAF? Yes. Will they probably win this tournament? Yeah, probably. Mexico will have something to say about it. But this is USA's C team, right? Did that win impress you guys? Did it? Did it make you nervous for the future? Like, what were your overall thoughts about that Canada game?
I feel like that we didn't take the game seriously. I mean, I almost felt like when the starting lineup came out and you look at it, you're like, huh, all right, cool. So now it's not only our C team, but it's our backup C team that played this game. I mean, they did obviously you had Ferreira that was in. You had Robinson on the back end in. I mean,
right.
There were some guys that were the leaders of the C squad, let's put it. But I mean, these games you have to win. I think them losing is a bigger statement than anything. You're expected to win. They should win this game just because of the overall talent difference that they still have. But I was a little concerned that they didn't take it seriously. I don't think that happens again. I think their best lineup starts every week or every game from now on, or for the next 2 as long as they make it through. But I think the coolest thing was Turner's save to start PKs. What that dude scored on the exact same shot, 10 minutes before that,
right.
in extra time to tie it up, to take the lead, which was very questionable, but it was the right call.
Crazy last 10 minutes of that game.
Yeah. But then just seeing Turner make that save, just stand there. I mean, he literally put his ass on the line and just stood there and made that save. Was one of the coolest things I've seen in a long time.
I missed most of the second half. I'll be honest. First half didn't make me feel great. Watching this tournament hasn't made me feel great, but I also understand that you're not always going to run out the Pulisics and the McKinneys, and like we talked about a couple weeks ago. With the transfer window, they're not going to really let them play.
Right.
It's good to see Jesus Ferreira, doing Jesus Ferreira things. I really like that kid Buzio. Am I saying his name right?
Busio.
Yeah, I mean, not much to write home about.
What about
I thought it was.
Vasquez?
I thought it was the funny with the standoff in PKs. Like, dear God, are we really doing this, guys? Just both
Yeah.
of you back up right now. Like the umpire in me was ready to yell. All right, on three, 1, 2, 3, all of you.
You mentioned Vasquez briefly. Adam, you're on mute. You mentioned Vasquez briefly, and he's kind of not been very good for Cincinnati. He hasn't really hit his form or really hit a stride lately, but he's showing up for the national team. I thought overall he was one of the better players on the field, and he didn't even really touch the ball that much.
And when he did, he put it in the back of the net with authority. That was one of my favorite goals I've seen in a long time. Like, the ball was placed perfectly off the head and just straight to the back of the net. Like, it was a rocket off his head. That was probably one of the cooler goals I've seen in a long time, at least of that style.
Yeah, and then a quick note, because you mentioned Jesus Ferreira. I saw a stat the other day that's just like in the last 2 years he scored for club and country something like 40 to 45 goals, and not a single one of those has been a PK for his club. FC Dallas has not been awarded a PK in 2 years. That is a crazy stat. That's insane. In that time period, LAFC and Philadelphia have something like 16 each. Nuts.
Shocker, LAFC has a bunch of PKs.
So,
Right,
Sean, I want
right.
to ask you this, because you're the Dallas local. How much money has Ferreira made himself? And Dallas.
So Matt from Put Me in Coach, him and I, we were talking about this the other day, and I said that he'd probably get sold for around $12 million with like a ton of add-ons, like a huge sell-on clause. Matt thinks it's a little higher. He thinks 15 is the floor, and based on recent performances, I think I might agree with him. I mean, think of that stat that I just read off. All he does is score from open play, and he's doing it consistently for the past 2 years. If you're a team in Europe, say in Belgium, in Germany, even like a mid-tier English team, you're dying for that production. Like, you need that. That's lifeblood. It's so hard to find a striker who can score consistently, and he's doing that. Can he do it at a higher level? I don't know, man. We don't know until it happens, but.
So let me ask this question, because I sent out that Manuel, is it Veth? I don't even know how to say his name.
Vaith, yeah.
The German reporter basically reports on the Bundesliga and Bundesliga 2, and he said, I guess people are interested in AZL's Jackson, AZ.
Yes.
Like, what is the interest in Ferreira, or Jesus Ferreira? Because I'm not seeing anything.
So there was some last year. Leeds were actually in on him before Bielsa got fired. They were trying to bring Ferreira in, but the fee wasn't what FC Dallas wanted, and that was whenever he was leading in goals for MLS right around that time last year. So there is interest from like mid to lower tier teams in England, and there are a couple teams in Germany, and I want to say like a couple mid-tier Spain teams like Osasuna and Villarreal maybe were one of them. But there is interest. Like I hear it here because I'm in Dallas, so I'm kind of a little bit closer to it. But I mean, if AZ is getting looks, and he just scored his first ever MLS goal, he is younger than Ferreira, but I think a year. But if he is getting calls from fairly big teams, you have to imagine Jesus is getting calls as well.
Okay, so another question, since we don't have Cam's little sound off. Thoughts on Pulisic's move to AC Milan?
Love it.
Why?
It's a great spot.
It's a very good spot for him because there's not a lot of competition at his position. He's going to be able to get regular minutes in a top-tier league for a top-tier team. He's going to be able to play Champions League. So he's going to a great spot. And it seems like they submitted multiple bids for him, so they really want him. And I think they view him as an option going forward in the future, whereas Chelsea was viewing him as a backup puzzle piece to use just in case someone else got hurt. So all in all, it's a good spot for him. The Italian league is very good right now. Some of the lower teams are not as good as some of the teams in England or even some of the teams in the Bundesliga. But at the top, you really can't get much better than an AC Milan, an Inter Milan, Juventus, Napoli. Like there's good teams in Italy right now.
That was my question because I mean, Serie A is ESPN Plus? Question mark.
Yes, I think so.
So I know it's going to be a little difficult to watch them, and I just don't know anything about the league. And I know that there was Lyon made an offer, and it was rejected by both Pulisic and I believe Chelsea rejected it too.
Right.
And you're like, why wouldn't he just go to the French league? And then you see, I guess the rankings came out. Liga 1 or however you pronounce it is like 7th now. Like they've fallen out of the top 4 leagues.
Because the French league, Ligue 1, they have their top teams like PSG, Lyon, Marseille, and then that's it.
That's it.
It's a complete fall off from there. The Italian league, and especially like AC Milan, they were giants back in the 90s and early 2000s. They had a massive drop off, but they're starting to come back to where they were. But all the other teams around them are still really good. There's a ton of talent in Italy right now.
So what you're okay with all the men's national team guys, Weah going to Juventus, McKinney going back to Juventus, like you would be like, go to Serie A.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally cool with that. But, I mean, to be frank, I'm okay with any player going anywhere as long as they get playing time and they're playing consistently against decent and good opponents. If he chose Leon, I would have still been cool with that because he's still playing in a top 10 league in the world and he's still getting 90 minutes a game or 80 minutes a game, whatever it is. I want our guys playing consistently on a consistent basis. I can't stress enough how much they cannot sit on the bench anymore. We're past that point. If we want to have an opportunity to win a World Cup in 2026, our guys have to be playing, and they have to be playing every single week. So if they can do that go ahead.
Anybody watching on YouTube and just saw my shit-eating grin, it's because of the 20 text messages we received about Matt Turner needing to play at Arsenal.
Well, speaking of Arsenal, did you guys see that AC Milan is interested, and I'm going to butcher his name, in Balogun or Bologna?
Nailed it.
Balogun. I like Balogun way better. I can do hockey names all day long, but soccer names, they kill me. But apparently they are close to agreeing with Arsenal to get that one done too.
Which means they must have significantly overpaid because Arsenal has been saying for months that Balogun is in their plans. They ended the loan deal to have him come back. They didn't. Yeah. They didn't basically, set up a new loan for him. So the fact that they have to be paying a ton if Arsenal is going to let him go, and I'm cool with it.
The last number I heard was 40 mil or 40 euro, whatever.
Which I don't remember what Chelsea paid for Pulisic, but that might be a new record for an American player. I would have to look it up, but
I thought
if
Chelsea
it's not,
paid somewhere around 30.
That feels right. Yeah.
I thought it was somewhere in there because Pepe was 20.
So Pepe was 18 plus incentives, if I'm remembering right. And I don't think a lot of the incentives got hit because when he first went to Augsburg, it was just a terrible situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and move on. We don't have Cameron's rant that he's been preparing for us, so we'll go ahead and I guess we'll save that for next week. Let's jump into Adam's random sports news. Which was a personal favorite of mine from last week. That was a great segment. So, what do you have for us? What do you have for us this week, Adam?
We're gonna go completely random and off the grid, except not. We're gonna go with UFC 290. UFC 290 was one hell of an event for those of you that watched. The main card, you had Bo Nickel, who first round TKO KO. 38 seconds in, which was not the fastest knockout of the night.
That's right.
What was it, Kenny? Wasn't it like 17 seconds or something like that? The one-hitter quitter for some guy in the prelim was absolutely incredible.
Turn that boy into a 2x4.
Yeah, just dropped him. Jalen Turner beat Dan Hooker in the third round by decision, or in 3 rounds by decision. which to me is incredible because Dan Hooker broke his right arm just past his wrist, and he also broke his orbital bone. These guys are absolutely insane. Robert Whitaker, he came in, or no, I'm sorry, I had that backwards. Hooker won.
I was going to say, I'm like,
got it. Yep. Sorry, got it backwards. I was reading it wrong. I think this was probably my second favorite fight of the night. Robert Whitaker losing to, and I'm going to butcher this one, Dricus Du Plessis, which sets up the match with Izzy.
This depleases me.
It does depleases me. It depleases me because it sets up the matchup with Izzy Adesanya. And really, we should have Charlie talking about this. This would be way better, but he doesn't like to get on here anymore. But for our second round TKO, which was absolutely awesome. Brandon Moreno, he walks away losing his belt to Kenny. Can you pronounce this one?
Pagoja.
I thought about this on my way home after we watched that. His name reminds me of Robert Loggia. Pantoja Robert Loggia. That was by decision. I think that was the wrong call. This is my third favorite fight of the night.
Split decision.
It
too,
was
by
a
the way.
split decision. It should not have gone that way. Moreno should have won that fight for sure. And then I think the best fight of the night was Volkanovski against Yair Rodriguez. Third round TKO by Volkanovski, making him the pound for pound best fighter in the world. That was a hell of a match and just a hell of a fight in general.
Yeah, man, I think there needs to be a legitimate discussion of Volkanovski, and there might be, being arguably one of like 1 and 2 best pound for pound fighters ever.
Mm-hmm.
I have changed my tune on him. I did not like him at first. I still do not think he beat Max Holloway in their first fight, but it doesn't matter because he beat the bricks off of him the next 2 times. John Jones and Mighty Mouse are the only other 2 that really compare to him. And I'll also circle back. I don't like Dan Hooker. I think comments he made about Michael Chandler, whining about that fight. He did what I hate those guys that do. They get knocked out, and then they're like, I wasn't out. Whoa, 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 whoa. And then they bitch and moan about it. I don't like that attitude, but man, beating a guy with a broken arm and a broken face.
And we didn't know about the face until today, or yesterday, I guess, is when he sent the tweet out. So he gets interviewed by Rogan, and you can see him, he's got one arm up and he's got one arm down, and Joe goes, did you break your arm? And he goes, yeah, what do you say? It was just a flesh wound or something like that.
No, he basically glossed right over. He goes, we got to get it.
It was nothing. And it literally broke right here. It just broke. And then, so everybody knew about that one. And then he posts today on Twitter that he broke his orbital bone right in the side. I give hockey players all the credit in the world because they can take a puck to the face, get 45 stitches, and they're right back in the game. But my God, there is no way. I said this when we were watching the fight. Just once, I would like to know, not the feeling of getting my ass kicked, but the feeling of the adrenaline rush that you're in, that those guys have to go through. When you're absolutely gassed, you're, as I like to say, when you're mashing buttons, because we all played UFC back in the heyday of EA Sports, and you're sitting there dozing, or gray screen, bouncing back and forth, and you're sitting there mashing the buttons on your PlayStation or Xbox. But just knowing what that feeling would be like has to be one hell of an experience, which is probably why these guys do it, especially when it's just pure adrenaline. But my God, just have a broken arm. My face hurts thinking about that.
So I'll end my points on this. I don't think Pagoja won. I think Moreno is probably the first champion who didn't get the champion's advantage on the scorecards. Yeah. The one card, it was like 3-2. I feel like there was one card that was significantly different.
3-2, except split.
Okay. He didn't win 3 rounds. There's no way. And Duplessis is basically getting his moment stolen by Izzy. The 2 things from this. He was talking about his inner monologue while he's beating Robert Whitaker's face in, like, just slow down, be patient. And I'm like, how do you do that? Like,
right. How do you think that way?
You talk about the adrenaline rush of, like, what's it like to be in there and even be hurt. And I'm just like, How does he have an inner monologue where he's just like, be patient, be patient, be patient? Like,
just keep swimming. Just keep swimming.
But the one thing I will say is this guy is now the number one contender for the middleweight belt. Middleweight? Middleweight.
I think so. Yeah.
I always forget if Izzy fights at 170 or 185, and it's 185. He looks like he should fight at 170. Yeah. Neither here nor there. Izzy is damn near a WWE superstar.
Yeah.
Like, he presents that attitude. Like, I don't remember when it was. 2 years ago, he walked down to the ring like The Undertaker. Cool. Mm-hmm. Went into the ring and stole that guy's moment. Said a bunch of stuff that I can't repeat.
Yeah.
I thought it was trash by the UFC.
Did you see Dana's comments afterwards?
No, I try to not pay attention to what he actually says.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way too. But he had an interesting comment. Like it wasn't scripted, and they were 100% against it. But they thought that it would be perfect for being able to do it. Like apparently, I guess, and this was from an interview I saw that wasn't with him. But somebody had said that Izzy originally was not going to go down to the ring if Duplessis won. That he was going to stay where he was, and they were just going to do it from Duplessis on the top of the cage and do something like that. But I guess somebody went to Dana, and Dana was like, "All right, as long as it stays under control, I'm okay with it." I think the problem is he didn't realize where Izzy was in relation to the camera, and the cameraman turned, because usually when they look at it, they try to keep straight on with them, and the cameraman went to the side and got Joe as far off the camera as they could, or on to the edge of the camera, to be able to catch Izzy. And I think that's where Dana was like, I was not planning for that. He's like, I wanted an interview to be just him. I wanted Izzy back, and Izzy was back in his defense, and they just got the wrong camera angle. Like, it would have been cool at the end of it, the very end, to do something like that. I think they kind of ruined it with how they were doing the production.
I mean, the only thing I will say that's questionable about that is it's one thing when a sport is moving, switching to the wrong camera angle.
Yeah.
But you are after the fight, like Izzy is going the wrong way for me. Like Volk is like going this way up, and Izzy just continues to creep down, like just based on his attitude. And I love watching the dude fight, but shut up. I mean,
yeah. And the last thing that I'll do as far as UFC is we had Bones and Stipe announced for November, which that will be a massive fight. And honestly, I start to lean towards this might be Jones's last fight. And then the other big one that is coming in October, and I think it's the end of October if I'm not mistaken, is Francis Ngannou and Tyson Fury, which will not be a UFC fight. It will be a boxing match, but that will be a pay-per-view that I watch as well. It'll be up there with me with one of the Floyd Mayweather fights.
And I'll just say this final point. I know I already said that. If you are a UFC fan, I mean, end of the month you got Gaethje, Poirier too. That is they're going to throw hands in that one.
Yeah. BMF titles.
Yeah, I don't care about that stupid one.
I know.
Sugar Shane O'Malley fights Aljamain at 292. I mean, a lot of good cards coming up here. You potentially have Chandler versus McGregor at a catchweight. Like, if you're a fight fan, the next couple months are going to be awesome.
UFC is hot for sure.
Cool. All right. You know that meme of the guy kind of talking in the ear to the girl really loudly, and she just doesn't look like. That's me when you guys talk about UFC, because I don't know any of those names, but I am intrigued. I just have no idea what's happening. Let's go ahead and jump to our final segment, which while you guys were talking, I went ahead and just named off the cuff. I'm going to go ahead and call it Go or No Go. We are going to decide. I guess this is kind of like a piggyback off of what you guys talked about on Healthy Scratch, because you mentioned how pretty much everybody gets no trade clauses, right, in hockey? So if you had that ability, what would be the NHL teams that you would have on your no trade clause? Where would you refuse to go?
Adam, you said you had a bunch of teams written down.
Yeah.
I got my 5 was easy. My reasonings are probably a little bit off, but I'm going with these 5. Phoenix, because as much fun as I would like to be able to attend Arizona State, because it's apparently a party school, I don't want to be an NHLer and play in their arena. Or
I've been
not
to
have any
Phoenix,
idea
and
where I'm going.
I've been on Arizona State's campus. It's a great time, but I
Can
also
confirm.
yes,
I'm
I
sure
also,
it is.
I would not go to Arizona right now and play for the Coyotes.
Phoenix.
Not
I'm
at
not
all.
playing for the Yotes. I also have the Islanders. Let's go the other way, because if I'm playing in New York, I'm playing for the Rangers. And I'm not playing for the Devils. As much the Devils were the one that I'd be like, I'm okay. I'm not playing for the Devils. I want nothing to do with playing in New Jersey. If I'm playing in that area, I'm playing for the Rangers. My next 2 or the Canada teams. I am not going to Winnipeg. That is for damn sure.
Ding, 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 ding. That is the correct answer.
There is no reason in hell that I would go to Winnipeg. And you know what? The other one, just because, it's not so much the heat, it's the humidity that gets you. I'm not going to Calgary. Calgary sounds like an awful place as well. I don't know if you guys ever watched the documentary on Cool Runnings, the Jamaican bobsled team, but John Candy was their coach. He told those guys, and it was fucking cold there. So I am never going to Calgary for that reason.
You deserve that look for that dad joke that you attempted there.
I don't care.
I had Arizona on my list. I only had one other one. I would go to pretty much all those other ones though. I'm not going to Arizona, but I actually, by the way, I would go to New Jersey. Why would you not go play for the Devils? They're probably going to be cup contenders in a couple of years. Like I would go play for New Jersey in a heartbeat.
I was looking at it more of a sense of like where you're playing. Like if I'm going to play in that area, I want to play for the Rangers.
Yeah, I'd go to New Jersey. Like Asbury Park is fun, man. That's a good time. Anyway, I would not play for Buffalo. I'm not going to Buffalo. That
Buffalo
is a mess of an organization. It's cold as fuck. There's nothing to do there. And yes, they had a good draft, but I'm sorry, they're going to find a way to fuck it up. We all know it. Yeah. So no, I would not play for the Sabres, and I would not go to Arizona.
So I like the Sabres answer. I like the Jets answer. Montreal, no way.
Wow.
It is the furthest north of the cities. There is no way I'm going to Montreal. When you have to have your city built basically underground and all of it.
So, hold on. Let me get this straight. Our entire concept or idea for this segment is just fully based on weather, right? That's pretty much what we've decided.
Listen, we're all almost 40-year-old men. Like, weather is extremely important to us.
The good news is I could probably predict their forecast based on how my knees feel. So,
no. In all seriousness, I would not go to Dallas either.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's something about Stars fans. A certain Stars fan.
Yep.
Adam knows who I'm talking about.
I do.
I don't like anything about Texas. I'm sorry to our Texas listeners. You guys love your state. That's great. I don't. It contains it contains the butthole of America, which is El Paso. Can confirm. So I'm not going to Dallas. I'm not going to Montreal, Winnipeg, and Buffalo. And I'm struggling to pick a fifth team because obviously I could say, like, I don't want to go to Detroit either. But, listening to, like, Rivers talk about it, and he's like, it's one of the most historic organizations.
Right.
Yeah. So are the Canadians, though.
Yeah, I know. I just don't care. You guys have created this image of me not liking Canada, so I might as well.
I want to bring this one up.
You're living up to it.
Yeah.
Since you're struggling for your last one, we're all from St. Louis. Would you want to play for your hometown team?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not taking a hometown discount, but I'd play for my hometown team.
I'm not taking a hometown discount ever. I don't know. The interesting thought was hearing Matthew Tkachuk's point about the constant pressure that you get put on for family and friends and all of that stuff, I don't think I would put them as a no trade clause. But especially now, and I guess obviously it totally depends on where your situation is and stuff like that. If I'm not one of the guys that brings a cup to St. Louis, I'm not necessarily requiring myself to go there. It'd be interesting as a no trade. I would debate it, but I mean, I would definitely be one of those ones I'd be like, I don't really want to go there.
Yeah, see, I disagree with that completely. I don't think there's more pressure. If anything, I actually think it's more of a cushion gig, because you could suck and people are still going to buy you beers while you're out. You're still going to be beloved when you come back, whenever they see you out. Yeah, you may feel the pressure to perform because it's your hometown, but you're a professional athlete. Get over it. Sorry.
Yeah, but I mean, I know a kid who was drafted in the second round by the St. Louis Blues and utterly failed, and was in the draft class with Stamkos and Tavares. Well, Tavares was forced to be the next year. Petrangelo, Drew Doughty, on the level with those guys. Maybe didn't have the best success in the OHL, but coming home, I think actually did worse for him.
There's a lot of factors that go into that, though, and I still maintain, if you're a professional athlete, if you get to a point where you have a no trade clause where you can actually decide where you want to go, so you are already somewhat successful, you're not just a draftee, I'm sorry, suck it up.
And I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I'm also bringing up the counter to that, right? Ultimately, right. We can say that all we want. Look at what David Freese just did. I don't want to talk about the Cardinals, but look at what David Freese just did, right? He declined the invitation to the Cardinals Hall of Fame. And
Adam was so upset about it, he decided to drop off.
I know.
But let's keep going.
So that just means that all of Adam's answers were stupid. And,
that is correct.
Dumb. So
yep. Never listen to anything Adam says.
Correct.
I would prioritize like a big market, though. Maybe that's just me. I'd want to go play in like a bigger city or a bigger market. I'd go to a New York. I don't think I'd go to LA. Just playing hockey in LA feels weird. Playing hockey in anywhere where it's warm out for majority of the year, just for whatever reason, feels weird to me.
You know what? I completely forgot about LA. I would probably add LA to my no trade list.
Yeah.
And it's nothing against Southern California. I love Southern California, but it's just not a hockey town. Well, I mean, LA is not an anything town other than like the Lakers, right? So yeah, I think that's actually a good point. Good bringing that up, Sean.
Hey, thanks. It's almost like I have a podcast or something. Speaking of podcasts, since you're the only one left, you get to plug the socials today. So where can everybody find us on our socials?
All right, follow us on the Benchwarmer Podcast Network at BenchwarmerNet. I believe that's on Twitter. The notes aren't very good, but okay. This show specifically at Pod Ride the Pine on Twitter and at Pod_Ride the Pine on Instagram. We are on YouTube. You can search both those options, Pod Ride the Pine or Ride the Pine Podcast, and you should find us. You can follow me at Ken Hutton. You can follow Sean at Sean Sproat, right?
Sean_Sproat, SPROAT.
Yep. Mm-hmm. You can find Adam's Grinder profile on AMF RH7. And let's see here. Listen to our sister podcast at Put Me in Coach. You can follow them on Twitter too. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, apparently Amazon. Who knew? Everything's on Amazon. And also on the YouTubes.
The YouTubes is the big one. That's the brand new one. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification on that one. Come check it out. I guess kind of a sister show, a spin-off show, whatever you want to call it, Your Healthy Scratch, your hockey-centric podcast as you and Adam are doing. It's going to be on the Ride the Pine feed, so please check that out. I don't think we're
going to do an actual Twitter handle for it, because that's a lot. We already manage the Ride the Pine one, and you can clearly tell when Adam and I take
Oh, you mean because you guys actually use it? Is that
Yeah.
it? All right, let's go ahead and get out of here, man. You got any final thoughts for me before we head out? Anything?
John Mozeliak should brush up his resume.
Yeah, you probably should have done that a long time ago. But all right, guys, or Kenny, let's go ahead and get out of here. Everybody have a great night, and thanks for listening. Bye.
Hold on, one final point.
Oh,
City beats LAFC 2-1.
give me a score. Ooh,
2-1
on the road. Okay, I'm not going on a limb there, but good luck.
Oh. One of us.
Great showing. You guys suck and you cheated.
Oh, we're recording? I didn't know we were recording.
It is the biggest transfer or free agent signing in the history of the United States in any sport.